grace us with your story a little bit.
Thank you for that intro, David. And I just want to say this has just been an amazing experience. I think all of us agree with, like, we're going to leave changed human beings. And, we just thank you for giving us this forum and the opportunity through your work and what your purpose in life is to transform ourselves. And that's, that means a lot. So, as David says, my story begins as my origin, and it's so great that he spoke about that today. But I want to first start with a quote that means a lot to me. It's by Charles R. Swindoll, who is a pastor, and it simply states, in life, we are all faced with a series of great opportunities, but they are brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. If you think about that, we all have been in situations which in retrospect we have come through and survived. But when we were there, we saw no way out. We didn't know how we were going to make it. We felt stopped. And for once in our life, more than once, we were actually broken. Didn't know how it was going to be. Then when we look back, we see that God's hand was with us all the time. That before that situation happened, he had already prepared us for what was to come, and that we are still standing. We may have fallen, but we've gotten up and we're still here. We're still doing the work. So David wanted me to go back to my origin and why my story of my life is called Born into Crisis. I was born in Jamaica. Now you need to understand that Jamaica, you think of Bob Marley, Sean Paul, dance hall, beautiful beaches, and it's all that. It's paradise. But at the time in Jamaica, my mom was married to my dad. She was a teacher, young, beautiful teacher, had her own story that I now realize, origins, prepared her for what was to come. And my dad was an air traffic controller. They were in love. They had a 2-year-old already. 2 months before I was to be born, my dad, who was fit, healthy, wasn't feeling well and had gone to the doctor, and routine tests were done. His blood pressure was really high, and it made no sense. He's a fit young man, and they did routine tests. The long and short is he was in kidney failure off the bat. He was like, what do I do now? My wife is supposed to deliver in less than 2 months. I have a 2-year-old. They didn't know what to offer. This is Caribbean, so there was no dialysis at that time. And the doctor said basically, well, we're going to have to do your blood pressure. We'll do what we can, but let's see. The long and short, moving forward, my mom gave birth to me. My dad, the mic dropped, sorry. My dad took my mom home with me, and he had told her that something wasn't right, don't worry about it, protecting her. He was her protector. He dropped us off, and he told her, babes, I have to go into hospital. It's not good. They're going to run some tests. I don't know what's going to happen. Put yourself in her shoes. For the moms, you have a 2-year-old, a 2-day-old, and your partner says he's going into hospital because something is really wrong with his kidneys and they don't know what's going to happen. My father died 9 days after I was born. 9 days. Without any preparation, my mom was left with a 2-year-old, a newborn, and she was young. She was a teacher, and we all know teachers don't make money, certainly not in Jamaica. I mean, they don't make money. And she did not have her own family. Again, from my British background, Jamaican background, my mom's father lived in the UK. He was white. Her mother was black. It was, a relationship that was just never going to work. And she was actually raised by an aunt. But she had no family in Jamaica. My father's family was her family. So can you imagine facing death, being postpartum, not having financial security, nothing? She had to find a way. So my mom sacrificed herself for these 2 little girls. And she did find a way. She was resilient. She was loved. She was like, these are mine, and I'm going to do this. But it was not easy. Obviously, she suffered understandably, depression during that time. Moving forward, what was I as a child? Actually, this is my closest friend. She's known me since age 3. When I helped her in kindergarten when she was crying and told her, "Stop, why are you crying? It's going to be okay." She did not like me for that. But I was spirited. I was the sort of child, there's nothing you couldn't tell me I couldn't do. I was always performing. I loved to dance from then. I would be cartwheeling, hand somersaults, anything. I was also very smart. And it was hard for my mom with my sister and I. We did not have money. We actually lived in Jamaica on the border of what would be the ghetto and, very low socioeconomic area, but just made it into lower middle class where you may have one or two teachers. But she had to work not only as a teacher, she worked in the library. At a very young age, my sister and I had to just do what we needed to do, and we had a community that also helped us and looked after us as well. But it was not easy. We were never protected. I did not have a male figure in my life. We had no uncle, brother, father, no one. There were times that, there was crime in our neighborhood, and we would all just snuggle together, scared because there was no protector. My mom also had a lot of faith, however, and so faith was always part of my journey of my life. So one arbitrary day, getting ready to go to school, we had a broken down car, never worked. I mean, it was just quite a situation. But as a child, you don't really care, right? You just do life, and you know that you're loved. So I was running, waiting for her to take us to school. And I was around age 8 at that time. And I went into the bathroom because I thought I heard her in the bathroom. And I went to the door. And I heard her crying. And I looked through and peeked in. And there was this beautiful woman. She just sat down and she was just crying. Just tears rolling down her face. And her hand was on her head. And I thought about it. This is how I'm starting the day. And I may not have understood then because I was only 8. But no, obviously looking back, this woman was carrying for the past 8 years all of this, being father, mother, not knowing how to make it, no money, not even able to grieve, no support with these 2 little girls, and didn't know what to do. In that moment, it was one of the pivotal moments of my life. I made a choice, my choice, that I was going to be perfect for my mom. I would never make her have to cry about me. I was going to be the perfect child so that she would never have to cry again.
So think about that for a second. What decision were you making at 8 years old? I think it was probably between playing baseball and Atari. Should I get the 7800 or the 5200? Huh?
What candy I'm gonna eat?
Or what candy, or yeah, exactly. And to think about that, when I started listening to her story, we were talking about her life now as a doctor, what she went through during COVID, everything that we were talking about, but it was her origin story. She went back to finding out about her grandparents. She went back to finding out about the relationships that would never happen, because at that time, black and white do not work in Jamaica. It doesn't, there's a power struggle between who runs the British or whatever. So she did this homework, and she had epiphany and breakthroughs, and we're talking in tears and blah, blah. But her story to me is like watching your mother cry because losing, but again, she's 8. But she's saying, I'm not going to, basically what she did is she put her dreams on hold. I want you guys to understand that, ladies. She said, I'm putting my dreams on hold. So her American dream, I was going to call this her American dream, okay? And she's going to share a little bit more because this is really cool. I hope you ladies really enjoy this part, this speech. But to think that at 8 years old, you stopped your excitement, her dream of, she was one of those people that would literally, if Gary was up here and she was a little girl, she would basically say, I don't care if anybody invited me, I'm going to go dance in front of the camera.
Correct.
So she's born to be in front of cameras. She's born to be in front of people. That's why she's a salsa dancer now, because she can compete and she can do all these things. 8 years old, ladies. 8. To have the concept of saying, I don't want to be a burden to my mother. That's what I got when I listened to it. Okay? Now, we have to fast forward.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about the day where you got your citizenship.
Okay, so, well, that's a big fast forward. But long and short is I came to America, I achieved. I was an overachiever. I mean, I became a doctor at age 22. I was a doctor, I was a full-blown pediatrician before I was 25 years old. I graduated full honors. You know, I was determined because nothing was going to stop. Nothing was going to stop me. I was going to do this. And the next thing was I got married. And in getting married, was it the right choice? You know, looking back, just like what David, you know, has told us, and obviously also doing therapy before, I got married to, for other reasons. You know, I didn't even know what love was. I didn't have a framework for that because I had never had a male figure in my life. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't date. And even though he's, you know, all of us, you know, have our own baggage, the point is that I got married not really knowing what to look for in a partner. And I, however, was blessed with two beautiful children, a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. My ex-husband was a professional as well, but in Jamaica, unless you have money or name, it doesn't matter your academic brilliance and what you try to achieve, we could not make it. And we looked on and we said, how are we going to do this with a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old? We had a green card through my husband's family, and obviously we had visited the U.S. We decided we're going to go live the American dream. And I said, okay, my marriage is not perfect, but it's not horrible. For me, as mothers, what's the most important thing in your life? It's your children. I am going to give them the American dream. I'm going to work hard because I've already done it. Nothing can stop me. That had been my life. I'm going to do it. And also, I wanted my children to have the opportunity to be whoever they wanted. Now, I am gifted as a physician. I mean, God has prepared me my entire life to be in hospital medicine, high acuity. I can work in crisis. I don't lose it. Everything can be falling apart. I'm going to be the team leader. I'm going to get the team through it. I take care of the sickest kids in the hospital. So I come to America with my husband, a 1-year-old, and at the time a 3-year-old. We had nothing, like literally the suitcases. But I had the suitcases of the possibilities of America. And my children would also get the gift of choosing what they wanted to do. Because although I was gifted in medicine, in the Caribbean system, either you're a doctor, lawyer, or an engineer. And it's basically decided for you from the time you are 13 years old, you're streamlined into sciences, arts. So somebody like me that is left and right brain, I loved everything. I did 2 languages, history, literature, everything. But when it came to the time, it was like, listen, she's really smart. She's, you know, I started high school at, age 10? They were like, she's doing medicine. And that was my choice. That was the career that was basically chosen for me. And I don't regret it because it was part of my story. And it was giving me preparation for what was to come. So I came to America. My husband was actually not with me when I came to America. He came and tried to settle us in, but he had to still work in Jamaica because we had no income here. I had to redo the exams that I had graduated with honors at the top of my field with 2 toddlers and get them through. So I did that. And residency all over again in a country that did not know my degree. I'm a British trained doctor. And in a country that I'm a woman was still difficult. And I'm a woman from a different culture. I shaved off 2 years off of residency. I was going to do this too. Nothing stops me. And I, like Olga, knows what it is like to give quality time to your children, not quantity of time. I was never going to be the room mom. I was never going to be there. But my children knew they were loved. My children understood that their mom's calling, the vision that I had for our life, that's what it took. My partner, it was a bit different, and now I see, thanks to coaching, that he could not see my vision. He was intimidated by the fact that I could do all these things. So fast forward. I had been in the U.S. exactly 10 years. My citizenship, finally, I was going there. And I was by myself, crying, tears, just crying. And around me, people were crying, laughing, waving the American flag, the American dream. But my tears were tears of sadness, and grief. I was alone, first of all. There was nobody there to watch me get my citizenship. My daughter, most beautiful child, had died 2 years earlier after a 1-year battle with the rarest brain cancer there is, diffuse pontine glioma. It's a death sentence. So for me, who had taken care of all of these children, my life, I could not save my own child. My marriage was already over. I had planned to actually divorce my husband the same year my daughter got diagnosed. But I couldn't go because now I had a child that I had to get through cancer. But by the time of my citizenship, which would have been 2 years post her death, I was in the throes of getting divorced. So I had a son who was going through survivor's guilt. Even though he was excelling, he was dealing with being the one left behind and not being able to hold the family together. And I stood in that citizenship swearing in, thinking of all the dreams. My suitcase of dreams that I came to America with was completely empty. I felt sad. I was angry. I was lonely. I'd lost friends who nobody wants to be the friend of the mother whose child dies, not from a bad place, but because it makes it real for them that this is a possibility. Especially Laure, she didn't deserve this. My whole life had shattered. And in that moment, all I could think of was, I have no more dreams. And I had done everything right. I was a Christian. I believed that God was going to heal Lee. And I had promised him, but I can't make a promise for someone else. If you heal Lee, I'm going to tell her story to the world because they will believe in you because I know that this cancer is impossible to cure. I didn't get that miracle because it wasn't supposed to be that miracle. The miracle was further down. So I left the citizenship, and it's so funny that it's what we say, that unless you tell your own story, other people don't tell their own story. Nobody would have known what I was going through, that I could do 24-hour shifts with the sickest kids, but I would go home and just be broken. What was my life? I had no identity. I had started out this life in America as a mother of 2, now I was a mother of 1. I was a wife, now I was getting divorced. I was financially in debt. Cancer is expensive, especially when you're doing clinical trials where insurance is not going to cover the possibility of the possibility. I was left in debt. I had nothing. A few days later, and this is the part, I spoke with David. Many people don't know that. I was driving to a shift at the hospital, and I have to stop by the railway track. And in that moment, I just thought, I'm tired. Because my daughter's cancer didn't break me. I still ended up forming a nonprofit for Cancer Lee's Light. I was like, I'm a champion. I'm going to do this. But when I ended up going through what I did 2 years later with, a lot of stuff that had happened, I was just tired. I was like, I can't do this. And in that moment, I thought, I could. But then I thought about it. I said, God, this is not my life. I am a survivor. I came into this world in crisis, and there's nothing that's going to stop me. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how we're going to get through this. I know that I'm angry with you, which I also learned. It's okay. He can take it because he already had the plan. And he was preparing me my entire life, even up to that point. That, Laure, I got you. I got you.
When people say, when I listen to, you gotta understand something. When I do a session, I have to watch over and over. I'm taking all that in. I don't know if you ladies know what that is like. If you love somebody and they tell you what their hurt is or their pain is, and you listen to it, it's the hardest thing. My job is hard. I get it. I understand it. But when we get to the point of her telling me how she felt at the citizenship, and then she's in front of the railroad track, and she's saying to me, these are her words, David, how easy is it for me to just hit the accelerator right now in front of the train? And I remembered when she said that to me, the question that I asked her when I first talked to her in Orlando and she was in the phone, I said, "Are you mad at me?" Why did you think I asked that? Why did I ask her, "Are you mad at me?" On the phone, when we first talked. Remember, she just saw my story. Hmm? No, but why did I ask her that question? Because I survived. So, when I say it's a privilege for me to listen to women or men or whoever wants to share, it is a privilege because I know how hard it is to even open up to anyone. Now, this is a woman that just lost her child. Not recently, but I'm saying she lost, it's still a loss. And she's hearing about a story of somebody that prayed and got her prayer answered, and I'm sharing my story, and she lost her child. So I said, "Are you mad at me?" She said, "No." And then she's telling me through her story, it was this moment, I can hit the accelerator, and it's over. The pain is over, right? So I told her, I said, "Laure, remember, why am I in your life? If you felt a connection with someone that was healed, you're a doctor, you know about immature teratoma, you know the case studies, all of a sudden, why would I be in your life?" And I said to her, "There's more." Can I share? Mm-hmm. She made a promise to Lee, right? Mm-hmm. And what was the promise?
My daughter was a very unusual child, so I think we all as parents know you can't lie to your children. So there came a point where at age 8, she said, "Am I going to die?" I said, "I'm not God." I tried to circumvent it. She says, "Mom, am I going to die?" And by this time, things were not good. And when I say she said it, it was not very easy for her to speak. And she said to me one day, "You have to continue to take care of the children. Will Kyle be okay?" That's the name of my son. "And you have to promise me to keep taking care of the children." And I said, "I will."
So she built a foundation, but that's been years now. She hasn't been working with children lately. And I said to her, and I triggered her because I said, wait, you made a promise. Remember, I made a promise 16 years ago. On August 25th, 2006, I made a promise. God heal me, I'll tell your story. You made a promise, but it wasn't to God, it was to your daughter. But that promise, like, it's funny how Gary's talking about binary effect. That promise can go through someone else. It doesn't have to be direct. So I said that to her, she got mad at me. She said, "David, I don't want to go back to that." And I said, "Yeah, but you're not defining it correctly. You're not going back to anything. What we're doing is not old. What we're doing now is new. This is a new beginning. I just talked about that. This is a new chapter. This is a brand new life that you're going to live now. How we do it, I don't know." That's what I told her. And when I'm listening to her speech and she's sharing me, and she almost didn't do this today, by the way. Are you glad she did?
Yes.
So while she's sharing that with me, I said, and she's telling me, "David, but you have a foundation for children with cancer." I said, "I do." I said, "Well, maybe I can support it." "You can." And I wanted to speak to kids. "You can." And you want to speak to, because I told her, I said, I speak to parents that lost kids. I don't have what you have. I have a missing part. You can give these parents hope because you're still standing after losing your baby. That was my missing part. I don't have that to speak to parents yet. These parents still come to me for hope. She has something that I don't have. I have something that she doesn't have. Same with all of you. It's like Gary said about the binary star. That's why I didn't know where he was going with it, but go, Gary, go. All I'm saying is this. There's something about it that, again, if you're still alive today, there's some reason, there's a purpose, even today, even just a conversation, having a conversation with just a few of you outside or whatever, there is something, if you're here, there's a purpose while I'm in your life. I don't know what it is yet. You give me a chance, I'll let you know. But at the same token is, this was the hardest thing for her to go back through her story because it's not scarred yet. I've opened up those wounds. They were Band-Aid. And I told her, you're not doing this alone. We're opening the wounds. Yes, we can put a Band-Aid in for now, but eventually we got to pull it out, and eventually you got to let the scar.
I have done the work, I've been through therapy. I've lived in therapy to make sure that I could continue to find what my purpose was. And it's funny, when I heard Olga talking about where she was in her life, because people, close friends who know my story, and even some of my colleagues say, I keep on saying, I'm not fulfilled. And they said, Laure, what else do you need to do in your life? You've lived like every aspect of life. I said, I don't know. There's just that, Gary said it, there's that inner knowing that there's something more that I need to be doing. And everybody said, Laure, can you just chill? Finally, you're in a good place. You've done the work, you're doing the work, you have rebuilt your identity in your own way, you're right in your own life. And that's something that was so real to me, when you know that you're a Ferrari, and you will not compromise that you're a Ferrari. So I will stay a Ferrari with a single seater for now. That's okay for a while. And I've lived my life, this salsa has been therapy for me. Trusting people in my life again was a big deal for me. Salsa, I had to do that as well. And also just to also define what I create myself as now is my next chapter. And I've started that work, but I know that David coming in my life, that part of that is to continue to fulfill the promise.
Well, what's missing is your purpose. We all have multiple things in our lives that give us, joy, right? And what's missing is that purpose.
Correct.
What's in my life every day, and Gary knows me probably better than anybody here, is that I'm a lot. And she used to say that a lot to me. I said, I'm a lot. I said, well, guess what? You meet another a lot, or two a lots, because I'll drive you crazy. And if I drive you crazy, it's not out of bad things. It's just because I want to push you, because I don't know what days I have left. So if I have an hour with you, I'm gonna frickin' drive that hour all the way home. Why? Because you got to take a shot. You never win a game if you don't take a shot. You never, build an empire or build your company if you don't take a shot. There's a lot of things that happen, but there's something spiritual that's bigger than anything natural that you're ever going to be able to do. Healing is not physical. Healing is internal.
Okay.
And the physical can be healed, of course. But when you think about, when I listen to her story and all these other women's stories, is, okay, God, show me what's next. Like Tatiana said earlier, what's the next step? The next step is she needs to keep her promise, and I have to keep her what? Accountable. If you're not accountable to something in life, you're not really living your life to the fullest, by the way. Okay? A doctor makes you accountable. A trainer makes you accountable. A coach makes you accountable. By the way, people always say, should I do therapy? And yes, do therapy. Make my job easier. Seriously. The people that do therapy and they come to me, 100 better. I can get to the point because you've done some work. Now it's just me kind of organizing it. Please do therapy and then come to see me. Absolutely. Amen. I'm all about that. So, but I'm proud of Laure for sharing her story. I believe that her promise is going to come. I believe I'm here to make her accountable. Because even though the promise wasn't direct to God, her daughter's life is, what? Her story is not done yet. Mm-hmm. And I believe by her sharing her story keeps Leah not alive, but keeps her legacy going. Right? And if she doesn't share it and something happens to Laure, what happens to Lee's legacy? Do you know how important your life is? You have so much power, not just in your life, but other people around you. Like guys, listen, I kept looking at Gary and said, where's he going with this binary star thing? And it's just like hitting me right now. It was perfect, Gary, for you to share that, because it is the truth. You serve others and you just let God show off in your life and see where he's taking you. Right? If I've coached you, you know how I am. You know, you can call me anything you want, but the one thing is I do it with love, and I do it because I care about witnessing you do what you're supposed to do with your life. And that's what gets me out of bed every morning. So again, thank you for staying. I know some of you are going to the mastermind. We're still doing the mastermind. I have the food for you. We can cook it. But thank you for those that you stayed for a while to listen to Laura's story. I hope you really took it in. It's not the last time she's going to be speaking. It's the first time she's going to be speaking. And one thing that we talked about last night, I believe, was, you know, I have this big dream of the foundation and doing galas and doing fashion shows and doing concerts for the foundation. Another thing that I do for kids is I have all these fitness girls that love to dress up like Wonder Woman. And now we have She-Hulk. I love She-Hulk. If you haven't seen it, it's a great series on Disney Plus. Disney Plus, I love you. But all I'm saying is this, that there's all these girls that I've known in the fitness world, they all want to dress up and go to these hospitals and go visit these kids. And me and Lanella talked about it, a year ago. And I hope that the hospitals open that up again. Because one of the biggest things for me after battling cancer was going to see kids. The real heroes are the kids.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because they don't understand how much strength they give their parents. They have no idea. They never knew what it was to feel good. They've been feeling bad their whole lives. And if they get an ounce of joy, when I come in and tell them that they're the real heroes, when I bring them little t-shirts, when I show them my picture and they see what I look like now, they're like, ooh, you're a superhero, because they see me like this and I was like this. And they're like, yeah, no, you're the superhero. Look how many lives you're touching in this hospital. And that is something that's one of my God-sized dreams, to get back to that when the hospitals start opening up like that for me again. But remember that even when you're broken or you feel like you're down, whatever, the biggest thing to do is serve.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hate to get preachy, but there's biblical. Mm-hmm. If you need money, give money. If you need love, give love. If you need a hug, give one, because guess what? You're getting one back when you hug somebody, yeah. Right? That's what I always say. I'm a hugger. I hug everybody. And but I will say that when you give a hug, you're going to get one back, so that's a good thing.
Can I just say on that too, because going back to, sorry.
No, it's okay. Gotcha.
To what you just said and what Gary shared, the one identity I did not lose was being a server of being the doctor that could do it. And it's like what you're saying, when you're in that place where you're not quite sure what's the next step, when you serve, when I walked through the doors of the hospital every day, I would go to the chapel religiously and say, Lord, just make me be your hands here. Let me be your brain. Let me just continue to heal. It was the one time I felt safe. It was the one identity that never changed. And it's ironic that it was a serving identity. It was giving back to the families, healing children, laughing and crying. Because as you know, I still had to deal and being that person without necessarily having to share my story, which I realized I could have, that, you know, to walk families through the death of their children. But it was the greatest gift, and part of my healing was that God had prepared me to do this and to continue doing that until I found the next step.
Amen. Listen, I'll close with this. My message is the same. Find hope, have faith, live every day with purpose, and finally be a miracle in someone's life. With that, I'll leave it at that. We close. Release the greatest out of me.